Can you give us a brief introduction to Familiar Touch?
Yeah, so Familiar Touch is a coming of old age film. It tells the story of Ruth, an 80-something woman, and her transition into a care facility. But instead of being a story about decline or death, it's really a close character study of her shifting self-identity and relationships with her caregivers and relationship with her own sense of desire and agency.
What inspired you to tell this story and why you think that the right moment is now?
I mean, it started with my own grandmother. She had dementia and was a poetry editor and someone who really, really connected to her linguistic expression. And when she became nonverbal as a part of her dementia, my family started speaking about her as if she weren't there anymore. And at the time, I was starting to study dance and was really interested in embodied expression. And that gap between how my family spoke about her as if she were absent and this person who was still very physically expressive really stuck with me for a long time and haunted me. And then many years later, I started working as a caregiver to New York City artists with dementia. And then that led to making films intergenerationally and teaching filmmaking to older adults. And all of these experiences really shifted my perspective around aging. And made me realize, how ageism works, how we think about older adults as being other and not quite fully human, and how our age identity is actually very fluid, that all of us can access sort of all the ages we've been. And so those experiences sort of came together for me and made me realize that the way to tell this story of aging in a different way was to borrow the coming of age genre from younger adults. To tell the story of a woman who's older, but to see her experience with memory loss and aging as a moment of transition rather than of decline or of tragedy. And I think in terms of why now, we're seeing this huge demographic shift globally, right? Older adults are the largest demographic, the largest growing demographic in most parts of the world, or not most, in many parts of the world. And there's a shortage of caregivers and geriatricians globally. And so I think it's a moment where we need to be more attuned to the sort of politics of aging and caregiving.
So, what do you think the main message of the movie, and what do you hope the audiences would take away from watching it?
I mean, I hope young audiences will identify with Ruth. We're not usually sort of socially primed to identify with older characters if we're younger. And so I hope younger people will watch this film and see themselves in her, and realize that, her experiences of desire, of frustration, of anger are no different than ours as young people.
And what does it mean for you to present it here at the Red Sea Film Festival?
I mean, so we had the first screening yesterday, and it went wonderfully. And for me, the biggest joy of the festival circuit is getting to talk to people in each country, because culture around aging and around care, differs everywhere. And so getting to hear people's own experiences of aging and of caregiving is really the greatest privilege with this film. And so what was most exciting was that yesterday, with the Saudi Arabian audience, this is a story about an American woman, two seemingly different cultures, and yet the audience really connected with it. So it was a wonderful reminder for me of just how stories, when they are sort of most particular and specific, actually become universal. So yeah, I'm honored to be here.
And can we speak about the visual approach to the film and how you developed the way it look and feel?
Yeah. So I'm very lucky, and I've been working with the same cinematographer and production designer for almost a decade now, Gabe Belder and Stephanie Cohen. And we made all of this whole series of shorts together, and this was our first feature. We've gotten to kind of develop a shared language in working together all those years. And one of the things that we really were thinking about was the fact that older adults who experience memory loss often have an intensification of their other senses, that as much as their cognition declines, their sense of touch, taste, smell, all these things can actually be amplified. And so as much as we think about memory loss, I think traditionally we think of it as a type of decline, that these other forms of sense making can be quite amplified. And so we wanted to find a visual language to basically have the film be in Ruth's perspective, but to not have it be an ocular or a cognitive perspective, and to be an embodied perspective. So we really, the questions we asked each other was sort of, how do you create a visual language that is tactile, that is olfactory, that is, oral. That was kind of our guiding principle in creating the visual language. So, most of the frames are quite still. They're usually close to Ruth's eye level. There's, an attention to gesture, to touch, to texture. So yeah, we were trying to create this visual language that had Ruth's perspective, but through her body.
And how was your experience working with the cast, with the protagonist and her family?
Yeah, so we had an incredible cast of professional actors in the main roles. So Kathleen Chalfant plays Ruth, Carolyn Michelle plays Vanessa, Andy McQueen plays Brian, and H. John Benjamin plays her son Steve. And then we had a few other actors in the film, but then the rest of the ensemble were real residents and caregivers, Villa Gardens, the care facility that we collaborated with. And so that combination of getting to work with professional actors and then this real community was electric. And I think one of the things that I appreciate most about the professional actors that we worked with was that they really, really embraced that collaboration. When they were showing up to set each day, they were showing up to a care facility, not a sound stage or a location that was blocked off. They were showing up to a place that was, a home and a workplace for 200 people. Yeah, we had a really exciting collaboration. I guess I'll start by speaking specifically to Kathleen Chalfant. She's just an extraordinary collaborator, and the way in which she partnered not only with me but with her fellow actors is just she's such a generous collaborator, and I think set a beautiful tone for all of us as well, and the rest of our cast as well. They were extraordinary.
Can you share what's next for you? Any exciting projects coming?
Yeah, I'm starting to write the next film. It's like a little too soon to talk about because it's still in the kind of early days of cooking, if you will. But I can say that I want to keep making character-driven humanist dramas that have this attention to the body and to gesture and movement. I'm coming from a background of making dance films, and so as much as I want to keep making narrative features, I want all of them to kind of have this grammar of movement, even if it's not explicitly like dancey dance. So the next film that I'm writing fits that description, but I won't say much more than that for now.
Okay. Can you speak about the idea? How does it come to you? Like, how do you decide that, okay, I want to write this script?
Different ideas come to me all the time, and it's the ones that I can't put away, can't put aside, that like 2 years later I am still chewing on. I think filmmaking requires a certain amount of obsession because it takes so long. Like this film took almost a decade to make. And so if you're not a little bit obsessed and a little bit possessed, it doesn't happen. So I think, I don't know, it's like I don't want to be too metaphysical about it, but it's like the ideas find you and then they latch on and then you can't quite let them go. And those are the films that I end up making.
But it's probably hard to switch when you're obsessed with one idea and then you have to let it go because it's over. And after,
Yeah, I don't know, but then like there's such a relief also. Like right now, there's a joy in once a film is finished being like, it's been mine for so many years, and now it no longer belongs to me. It is the audience's. They can do with it what they want, and that moment of turning over, I think is quite beautiful because then it frees up space that it's like it lives out in the world, not with me, and so I can pick up something else and carry it.
like in your chapter.
Exactly. Yeah.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. It's great to meet you.
It was nice to meet you too.